Hi. Okay. It looks like we are live. Need a little sip of coffee. I have this lingering congestion from a cold that just is not going away, but that's okay because it gives me my deep radio voice. I'm Sarah Olivieri, and I love coming to you live every week to talk to you about leadership tips, especially for my favorite, those nonprofit CEOs, executives, CEOs, also known as executive directors. And today we're going to talk about maintaining your strategic focus in the midst of those nonprofit fires. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by endless urgent tasks and struggling to focus on what truly matters for your nonprofit, this quick training is for you. And I want to talk about how to do this in kind of three categories. I want to talk about how to first prioritize your focus. As an executive director, as a CEO, and this is true for all CEOs, whether you're an entrepreneur CEO or a corporate executive CEO or a nonprofit CEO, you must think about your focus. That is your time and your attention, both together, as your number one asset that you are bringing to the organization. It is a resource and you must spend it wisely. So when other people come to you and say, "Oh, I got this really important, urgent thing. It's a fire. You need to ask yourself, one, I hear it's urgent for them, but is it urgent for me? And two, I hear it's important for them, but is it important for me? And when I say me, I mean, is it important of all, thinking about the priority list of all the things that I give my focus to? Does it rank high on that list? Okay. Do not accept somebody else's urgency or somebody else's priority as your priority. You have different roles. You must run it through the filter and take a careful determination before you react. Now, this requires some emotional control. You need to learn not to be triggered by other people's emotions. Accept their emotional state compassionately, openly, but don't let it transform your emotional state. Okay, you've got to be kind of rock solid as people come to you in different emotional states, regulated or dysregulated. You need to do the work to be emotionally regulated in order to prioritize your focus and keep that main thing, the main thing for your focus. Now, let's talk about keeping that main thing the main thing. One of the most powerful things we do in the Thrive program with my clients, I teach them the impact method, which is a whole business operating system for running a nonprofit or any complex organization. And what we do in that is we create our strategic goals. We have a very specific process for doing it. And then we turn the current goals that we're actively working on into a set of projects. And then we break those projects down into the tasks that we're going to do each day. And that way, we know that the tasks we're doing are aligned with our strategic goals. And this is how we can kind of you might call them strategic tasks. That everything we're doing in the day is not just because we randomly put it on a list or somebody said, "Oh yeah, maybe we should do that." It is all part of a coordinated plan, a coordinated strategic plan, not the kind of plan that sits on a shelf, but the kind of plan that gets updated frequently, that is meaningful, and that everybody in the organization is working to achieve. And in doing that, We also need to align our resources with our plan and our goals. So if our plan is to raise more money, that's one of our goals, then we need to be focusing our resources on raising more money. If our plan is to transform one of our programs, then we need to be focusing resources. And what should you be thinking of when I say resources? You should be thinking of your time and attention, your focus, other people's focus, money, expertise, right? You might have experts coming in. You might have equipment or tools. And you may, if you have unlimited money, then you can just pile on more resources, but probably some of those resources you're going to take from one place and put it somewhere else so that your resources are all aligned with your goals. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about today is something about time management. Now, you can't really manage time, right? But I want you to, track your time. There is nothing like time tracking to bring alignment, focus, and some really meaningful data. But it's not enough just to track when you're working and when you're not. That isn't going to give you any helpful insights. What you need to do is track your time so that you know for those projects that are aligned with goals, how much time they took from your different team members and you. For those kind of sets of recurring tasks in your organization, I like to organize those recurring tasks based on the key functions that our organization has to do. I have a whole training on this. Actually, I'm going to give in the 4-part framework for staffing up, which I'll be going live with next week. I am going to be talking about how to build the whole framework that your organization is built on, all the key functions that every nonprofit needs to have in it. And if you think of those functions as kind of categories of like tasks can be done towards creating programs, tasks can be done towards fundraising. And if you break those functions out and you align any recurring tasks with them, then we can see how much time do you spend on ensuring that you have used money the best possible way in your organization? How much time did you spend thinking about how to move the organization into the future? How much time did you spend thinking about or working on improving programming or making sure that programming was delivered in the way that it was planned to be delivered? So when you can stop and look, and I like to look at that time every 2 months. I look to see where the time is going and compare that to the results. And then you can start to see, when we put our time over here, this happens. And when we put our time over in this other place, that happens. Or the reason why we're not getting this result is because we're not putting our time, our focus, our attention onto the activities that are going to get that result. So often there's just this powerful thing when you can see the numbers and you can make a cool visual chart if you're a visual person, magic happens. And it doesn't just tell us where to focus our time. It inspires us to do it because we start to make that connection. So many things in business, and especially for nonprofits, which are very complex forms of business, we don't see the direct result of our actions, right? Like if I'm hungry and I eat a meal and then I'm not hungry anymore, boom, I had an immediate impact. It was easy to see. But if I'm spending, just the time in my day, I don't always see what the direct impact of that is. But when we measure it in this way and we have an organized way of looking at it, then we can see the direct impact. And when we see the direct impact, it's exciting, especially if we're getting what we want. Or if we learn that we can do some things to avoid something that we really don't want. And it motivates us to do even more, to be even more focused and even more intentional with our time. And I'll leave you with one final tidbit because you may have heard me using this word focus. And as much as, I love time. If you ask me, like, what is the definition of success? It would have nothing to do with money and everything to do with time. But within time, what makes time valuable for our organizations as leaders is focused attention time. So, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour of focused time, of focus, that's like your brain is engaged during the time, could be worth way more than many hours of unfocused time. So, where we spend our time is important, but the real thing behind it that is going to move the needle is that focus. And so, I want you to start thinking about where you put your focus and think of it as your most valuable resource as a nonprofit leader. That's what I have for you today. If you would like a summary of these tips and notifications and summaries of future tips and trainings, go to pivotground.com/sign up. And you will get the tips and notifications about these trainings, as well as other upcoming trainings like the one I mentioned earlier, which you can go to pivotground.com/staff up. I'll put the link in the comments as soon as I'm done. And I would love to see you there as well. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.